She stood at the edge of my property with a neon vest and a smug grin, pointing at a muddy trench like she'd just discovered gold. "It's just runoff," she shouted over the roar of a backhoe. "The HOA approved it." I froze, watching brown water snake across my pasture, swallowing the grass and pooling near my barn. My boots sank an inch deep into the muck as another wave rolled through. The ditch they dug behind their subdivision was now emptying straight into my land. I could feel my stomach twist with rage, but I didn't say a word. I just watched her, clipboard in hand, barking orders to the crew, while the flood spread wider with every second. I finally stepped forward, voice low but steady. "You're trespassing," I said, "and you're flooding private land." She turned with that same smug look I've seen from every HOA Karen in the book. "Sir," she said, dragging out the word like I was some child, "we're within community easement boundaries. The board approved this redirection for storm safety." I stared at her, mud splattering my jeans. "There's no easement here." Her laugh was sharp and hollow. "It's all part of the Lake Crest Watershed Project. Check your mail. Notice went out weeks ago." I didn't get any notice, because I wasn't in their HOA. But she didn't care. None of them ever did. By evening, my front field looked like a swamp. The grass was drowned, the driveway cracked under the weight of soaked soil, and the smell, like rotten algae, hung in the air. I stood there with my dog at my side, watching another storm roll in from the west. When the first raindrop hit, I knew what was coming. Another wave of mud, gushing straight from their development onto my ranch. I called the HOA office that night. Their secretary put me on hold for 15 minutes before saying, "We'll forward your concern to the environmental subcommittee." Click. That was it. The next morning, I found an orange stake driven into my land. It read, "Drainage zone, do not disturb." That's when I decided I wasn't just going to fix the problem, I was going to return it. I spent the next 2 days digging. My tractor roared before sunrise and didn't stop till dark. I rerouted every drop that came onto my land, channeled it through a narrow trench that curved behind my barn and right back toward their newly built community park. But that wasn't all. See, their storm pipe sat 2 feet lower than mine, meaning when the rain hit, it would backflow, fast. By the time the next storm came, I was ready. Thunder rolled across the valley. Rain hammered the tin roof of my barn. Within minutes, water poured through the trench, shooting like a small river right back toward their manicured lawns. At dawn, I stood at my fence line with a cup of coffee, watching chaos unfold. Water surged through their playground, turning the mulch into floating islands. Decorative stones washed into the street. The same woman from before came running out, barefoot in pajama pants, waving her clipboard like it could stop the flood. "You can't do this," she yelled. "You're redirecting stormwater." I grinned. "No," I said calmly. "I'm just returning what was already mine." She stomped through the mud, face red. "This is destruction of HOA property." "Then maybe you shouldn't have built your property on my drainage," I shot back. An hour later, 2 HOA inspectors showed up, same type as always. Bright vests, fake confidence, and an SUV with environmental enforcement stenciled on the door. They walked my fence line like they owned it, snapping photos. One of them shouted, "You're in violation of watershed regulations." I stepped forward and held up a document. "This," I said, waving the original county drainage map, dated 1972. "Shows your pipe wasn't approved, and your runoff? That's technically industrial discharge." Their smiles faded fast. "You're bluffing," one muttered. "Then maybe you should call the county," I said. "Ask them who signed off on your pipe. Spoiler alert, it wasn't me, they didn't believe me, so they did call." And that's when everything started to fall apart. Turns out their contractor rerouted the subdivision's drainage without county approval, cutting across my boundary line to save costs. Within a week, the county inspector was out here with a clipboard of his own, only this one had authority. He took one look at their floodplain and said, "This is a violation of state code." I didn't say a word. I just watched as the HOA woman tried to talk her way out of it, voice trembling now instead of commanding. The inspector turned to me and asked, "Sir, did you alter your land in any way?" I smiled faintly. "Only to protect my property, sir." He nodded. "That's your right." By the next month, the HOA was hit with 3 citations: unauthorized drainage reroute, property damage, and environmental contamination. And guess who they had to hire to fix it? Me. Their own board had to pay my company, at full contractor rate, to restore the land they destroyed. The same woman who laughed at me that first day had to sign the check herself. I made sure she saw the invoice line that read, "Water redirection mitigation, billed at triple rate." She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. "Consider it," I said, "a lesson in boundaries." Now, whenever it rains, I still stand by that fence, coffee in hand, watching the water flow cleanly down the proper channel on their side. Their park's a muddy mess half the year, and their HOA budget's drained faster than their pipes. But my land? Bone dry. Sometimes justice doesn't come from shouting or suing. Sometimes it comes from letting nature do the talking. They rerouted the storm into my land, and I just made sure it found its way home. You know, people ask me if it was worth it, if all that effort just to prove a point made sense. But here's the thing. Property isn't just dirt. It's legacy. It's principle. When someone decides your rights are optional, you either stand firm or you get washed away. So tell me, what would you have done if someone flooded your land and laughed in your face? Would you fight back? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because the next HOA story might just top this one. I look over my land one last time. Storm's over. Sky's clear. And sometimes, peace is the loudest kind of revenge.